Don't call her cute, don't call her feisty. She's a rebel, she is nasty, she is brave. She isn't honey, sweetie, sugar pie, baby. And don't you ever say that she was well behaved. Don't you ever say that she was well behaved. And don't you ever say that she was well behaved.
You're okay with not eating for this hour?
Oh yeah.
Or if we take a break?
No, that's fine. I'll just like put the microphone away and eat.
Cool.
While you're doing your story.
I've heard a lot of people lately complaining, not about us, but just about people eating on podcasts in general.
I know, it doesn't bother me. It's like a real like pet peeve of people.
It doesn't bother me either, but I understand why it does.
You know, it's a pet peeve that I don't understand, that I constantly thank the heavens that Louis does not have this same pet peeve.
What?
Even though he has a million other ones. Is the direction of the toilet paper roll. I find that to be so stupid. And I know that for some people it means everything.
I do have that pet peeve.
You do have that pet peeve? Oh, Louis, that's real nice.
Wow, that's like the only one you've ever not yelled at me about.
That's what a relationship is. It's that compromise. It's like, this bugs
Which
the
way
hell
do you
out
like
of me,
it to be?
but I can
The
not
right
say
way.
anything.
I like it to be the right way.
What's the right way?
Everyone has a different right way.
Is
Who
it with
cares?
the
It never bothered me. It's something about the proximity of on this toilet.
Oh, it's a very squishy toilet
It needs to be right there.
Do you like the toilet paper on top or from the bottom? I used to always really like it from the bottom, like growing up, and then something changed. And but I would never like. I mean, I don't.
You wouldn't care.
I would never switch. I would.
Yeah, it wouldn't put the energy in to switch it.
Are you recording?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That does.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, there you go, Louis.
I just would never. I never bothered me before. I think it has to do with the placement of the toilet paper. Like it takes an extra reach to go underhanded for where our toilet paper is, and that's the problem. But I always thought it was a crazy thing to do.
Our first male guest, ladies and gentlemen,
featuring Louis Katz.
Oh, it's very hot.
Oh, sorry, that is very hot.
Okay.
Oh no, are you okay?
Yeah.
Don't burn yourself.
No, it's okay. I'm good.
It's very. Do you want some almond milk in it?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I don't like milk in my tea.
I don't either, but lately I've been
We
doing it
fucking
more.
had a revolutionary war, so I don't have to put milk in my tea.
But I also have I can't drink things when they're very hot. So a lot of the time, this is another thing that's a pet peeve of Louis, is I'll wait, like I try to wait until it's a perfect temperature, which is right now.
Uh-huh.
But now the longer I wait, the colder it's going to be. And so really the nice thing about little almond milk in your tea is it's like, okay, it's only a few calories and it doesn't have like dairy, so you don't feel bad about it. But it just cools down the tea to the right temperature where it's very drinkable right away.
What if you put a single ice cube in it?
I think then it's like too cold. The temperature is weird. There's something about like the milk that like makes it drinkable because it's like, ooh, milky.
I have a similar thing with my coffee because Shaki likes to steam the milk, and I don't like that. I like cold milk in my coffee because then I can drink it.
Yeah.
And I usually chug it because I'm always late. Always late.
I'm always late too. Well, now I am. Okay, thanks. This is really just. I have something I learned from Louis, but I usually used to be on time. It's harder to be on time here too, though, because it's like who knows what's going to happen.
God, you're just at the whim of some untangible force that is the train. That is the MTA. I love tweeting at the MTA.
Yeah, you really are getting a lot of aggression out in that way.
Well, but I try to make
healthy.
it. I try to make it fun. Like I try to complain in a creative way, which is basically my stand-up.
Yeah,
just complaining in a creative way.
I like that sweater.
Thanks, dude.
Also,
I went
it's
shopping
green,
yesterday.
Which is you should have wore it yesterday.
No, you know what? I wear it the day after because I'm a different.
Where'd you get it from?
I went to this thrift store yesterday in my neighborhood that I walk by all the time.
Wait, is the one that has fur coats outside of it? It's like on your way from the train to your house.
Yeah,
I've looked at that place.
I went in there yesterday. Inside. Well, because I had to get stuff. I had to get props for All Female Reboot, which was great.
Great.
It was. You're so great. You're so talented.
Oh my God, you too.
You made that quick change.
That was a very stressful quick change.
You were so good though.
I had 2 scenes that were in a row, and I had a very quick change, as they say in the theater. And Liz, I don't know if our lineup was wrong or Liz made a mistake. Anyway,
it doesn't matter.
We thought one sketch was going to go first, and then we hear Liz introducing the second one, and I was like, no, and so I had to change really, really fast. It was very stressful.
It's a big change.
Yeah, it was like the most stressful moment already.
You looked amazing in that bodysuit.
Oh, thank you.
But so yesterday I went to get props, and then I was like, well, as long as I'm out here, and then I just popped by the thrift store to see if there was any costume stuff for us, and then ended up buying like 7 shirts.
I just had a panic that I forgot to give Carmen back her bodysuit, but I put it on the thing in the dressing room. Hopefully she found it.
Okay. I'm sure she did. Also, if she did, like, what does she need it? When does she need it by?
I mean, I don't know. Well, hopefully, yeah. Okay.
It'll still be there.
Anyway, but you went to this place and they had good foods. I mean, good clothes. Foods? I'm looking at my food.
Yeah,
okay.
I got the
They had
sweater
good
there.
clothes.
That's the end of
That's
the story.
all you got?
I haven't bought
It's nice
clothes.
though.
No, I got like 7 shirts. I
Ooh.
haven't bought anything clothing wise in like 2 years.
Yeah, I don't really buy a lot of clothes. I go to a lot of clothing swaps. Although I'm more scared of them here because of bed bugs.
Yeah, me too.
In New Orleans, I would go to a lot of clothing swaps, but here I'm kind of like, ugh, that's a tricky thing. I don't want to get bed bugs.
It's my biggest fear.
Yeah,
No, it's
my
not.
biggest fear is eating an edible by accident. I worry about that a lot because I don't have any self-control around sweets.
Yeah.
So I would probably eat if there was just like errant cookies out, I would eat like 10 of them, and then I'd be like, I have to go to the hospital and get like them to throw me up. What's it? Pump my stomach.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're bringing edibles to a thing,
You have to
that's
label
so
them.
nice of you. Thank you for doing that. You have to label it.
Yeah.
Let everybody know except for the cops.
Yeah, no, let the cops know. They might want some too.
Depends on the state.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, should we get started? 'Cause
Let's
you
get
have to
started.
go. Me first or you first?
I think it's you first.
Okay, good. Mine's a little short, but it's a good one. This is one that my mom sent me.
Also.
Yeah.
This is the podcast Well Behaved.
I'm Molly Ruben-Long.
I mean, you know what podcast it is, but
it could have just started playing on your
That's
podcast
right.
app.
If you have the Stitcher app, which we're on, or Spotify, and you just have it set to random.
This is Well Behaved.
I'm Ariel Elias.
And this is a podcast about women in history who, like, maybe you don't know about, but now guess what? You're about to.
You're going to fucking know.
Guess what, baby?
What?
Okay, I'll go first. So
Go
my
first.
woman this week is Georgia Teresa Gilmore. Not related to Lorelai.
Thank you.
She was born February 5th, 1920. She was and then there's not much really, I couldn't find much about her early life, like growing up, but she was born in Montgomery and just lived there forever, Alabama. She was a midwife and a cook and a nurse in Montgomery, Alabama, and eventually she got a job working as a cook for the National Lunch Company, which was a white-owned, segregated lunch restaurant in Montgomery. As soon as Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat and the Montgomery Bus Boycott started, which, quick refresher on the Montgomery Bus Boycott, if you don't remember from history class, that lasted 381 days, so over a year.
So long.
It was the first large-scale demonstration against segregation in the United States. It resulted in the U.S. Supreme Court requiring Montgomery to desegregate their buses. And also, I didn't realize this. It was MLK's like first foray into the public stage.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they basically once the boycott started, a group of black leaders in Montgomery created the Montgomery Improvement Association, and they were the ones that kind of led the boycott. And they voted Martin Luther King, who was a 26-year-old. 26.
That's crazy.
He was a 26-year-old pastor. At the time,
so
and
young.
I know it's really, really spooky. They elected him, and then he like led the bus boycott, and that was like his first time as a civil rights leader.
Yeah, that's
kind
so
of, or
smart
first big
though,
thing.
because like
yeah,
so much of that of the boycott, it was like obviously to prove a point. It was also to get national attention.
Yeah.
And it's so smart to use a 26-year-old. I mean, like, I think it's a similar thing to like the Parkland students who like know how to get the
to energize
media's
people.
attention.
Yeah,
because they're young, and like
this did remind me of like Parkland a little bit. I mean, it's like it's crazy how well oiled this boycott was and how it's just like, it just is like the most stunning example, one of the most stunning examples of like people resisting like oppression and winning. It's just like so,
and organization.
Yeah, it's so organized, and that's basically where Georgia comes in. So after another cool thing about the Montgomery Bus Boycott that I didn't know was that the initial people to hand out flyers about the bus boycott were a group of Black women called the Women's Political Council. So there's a lot of women who were involved in this.
Yeah,
obviously.
well, and we've like covered, I mean, you can even go back to the very first episode if you want, but like we've covered it a lot of times of like just how many Black people there were who refused to give up their seat prior to this.
Right.
This was like the culmination
yeah.
of all of these things.
Yeah. So anyway, the Montgomery Bus Boycott happens, and they begin the boycott on the day of Rosa Parks' trial, which is December 5th, 1955. Georgia Gilmore was an early and active participant in the boycott. In fact, she had already individually decided to protest the buses because she had an experience where a bus driver had told her to get off and then get back on through the rear entrance. But when she got off the front, he sped away.
What a dick.
Yeah, like a real fucking 12-year-old prankster or something. So after that, she had individually refused to be taking the buses. And that was like, I don't know exactly how long before Rosa Parks that was, but it was already, and apparently it was not uncommon for sort of there was already sort of like bubblings of individual protest against the bus system, but this was like the collective effort. So anyway, she's already an active participant. She's described by people who knew her as like loving and warm. She was like 300 plus pounds. MLK eventually called her tiny, which is weird.
Ha.
Tiny.
Do you get it?
Yeah,
she's
not tiny. But so she was like a very like warm, loving like person, but also was like very fiery, had a temper. She talked about how one of like the most important influences for her about MLK was the way that he kind of talked about, I should have found the exact quote, but basically like, you know, because MLK's whole thing was like nonviolence and like thinking about your actions and being really thoughtful about the way that you approach this, like this movement. And so that was like really impactful for her because she was someone who did have a very fierce temper. And so it allowed her to kind of like be more calculated about the ways that she reacted to things. So yeah,
count to 10. Breathe in through your nose
and realize
out through
it's
your
gonna
mouth.
have consequences and stuff like that. So it just seemed like her and MLK had a really like unique, cool relationship. Anyway, so she is, like I said, very active in the beginning. She's already walking, you know, not taking the bus and stuff like that. Her employer at the National Lunch Company gets wind that she is involved, and it all kind of centers around.
He's totally supportive, and he's
Exactly.
like, however I can help you, just let me know.
Exactly. No, she's either, it's unclear if she's fired or if she resigns, because basically she testifies in court during these trials against that driver who had kicked her off the bus. So because she knew that she was going to get fired for that, or she just waited till after and got fired. But basically right around when she testifies, she no longer has a job. So and this is something from her testimony in court. She said, quote, "When I paid my fare and they got my money, they don't know Negro money from white money."
More like unfair.
It's like, yep, capitalism.
Am I right?
Yeah, unfair, fair. So MLK, after she gets fired, is like, why don't you start a restaurant in your house? So she does, and it becomes super popular. And it's also important for MLK to have this place, because not only does he want like a safe, secure place where he can meet, but also some place, and this was in one of the sources, and I was like, oh God, a place where he trusted the food, like trusted that no one was going to poison him.
Shit,
like if Georgia made the food, like he was like not worried about it. So
yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So I didn't either. That was just like in one
that's
source.
like in Black Panther with the coffee. Have you seen Black Panther yet?
Which coffee?
The lady at the museum.
Oh yeah, exactly. So
you trust what you drink.
Yeah, MLK did not trust what he ate and drank,
Smart.
which was smart. So when celebrities would come to Montgomery, like over the years, Martin Luther King would always bring them to Georgia's. So Robert Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson eventually ate at her house.
Cool.
And after MLK got done with the march from from Selma to Montgomery, Georgia's house was the first stop that he went to for pork
up
chops.
an appetite after that
Walking
march. It's a lot of calories you burned.
Exactly. So that was the first place he went. So it becomes very popular. She has super long lines. It was just became sort of like a safe haven for people to meet. And also, oh yeah. Okay. So then after she just has this restaurant, she also starts something called the Club from Nowhere. And this is like kind of her biggest contribution to the movement and to history. She creates this thing called the Club from Nowhere, which is a group of African American women who would come together and they would make like cakes and pies. They would also make like full meals. They would make sandwiches. They'd make all kind of food to sell. And then they would give all of the proceeds to the Montgomery Improvement Association to support the bus boycott because people still needed transportation. So all of this money went to like gas, vehicle repairs, insurance on the cars, on the station wagons that would carry Black people to and from work or to and from the store or whatever, like if they couldn't take the bus. So she basically... And some say that she was like the biggest fundraiser.
Yeah, she's a community organizer.
Exactly. So and she was like, so basically it was called the Club from Nowhere because people were like, where did this money come from? And it's like, it came from nowhere. And also
so cool.
It was a really cool, and she also used that name because it kind of was unclear what it was for. Yeah. And so it allowed a lot of like older women, like maybe grandmothers who had been born into slavery, a lot of older women to participate in the movement without having to put too much of their lives on the line or risk their employment or something like that. It was very non-suspicious because it's just women getting together to cook.
It
which
also
is like normal.
Feels like if you were ever stopped by someone, they're like, where are you going? You could be like, nowhere. Yeah. And you're like, technically not lying.
That's true. Exactly. Nowhere. Or you just be like, I'm going to cook with my friends. And they're like, okay, fine. Like, we don't, that's not suspicious. Yeah. So.
Well, and that's also like part of underestimating women.
Exactly.
Of this idea of like a bunch of women getting together. Yeah. That's like in the... Wow. A lot of like callbacks to previous episodes, but like the Petticoat Rebellion. Exactly. All those, they were just like, they were like, we're in a book club. Yeah. Like, okay.
That's true. It also, I wrote this paper in college about the Algerian War for Independence and like women's role in it. And I just remember like it was very common for Algerian women to carry bombs because like, and because at checkpoints, like no one would ever check them. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's very much like using our, like our thought of it to be innocent to our advantage or whatever. So she, every week she would turn in all of her earnings at a meeting at the Holt Street Church. She averaged about $125 to $130 a week, which in today's money is like $1,100 to $1,800. So like,
Jesus,
yeah,
that's
like,
a lot.
Yeah, between $1,000 to $2,000 a week, which is awesome. So that's really
more
like,
than I make a week.
Me too. Me too.
By a lot.
Yeah, so they would sell their stuff at
I'm not
like,
doing well.
No, by so much. Actually, by really too much. She would sell it at beauty salons, cab stands, churches, laundry mats, everywhere. Both Black and white people would buy their food. And it just, it was this like sort of secret fundraising organization.
That's so funny to think about all the white people who were probably so against this boycott who ended up supporting the boycott.
They might have. I think it was more like white allies who would, I think it was
you
like.
think so? I feel like.
Because they would go to like mostly Black places, and I think it was just like the white people who were there to like support the movement. That's what the impression I got. I mean, there's a chance, but I don't know how many. I mean, there's a chance that like a few white people who were just like at the cab stand were like, oh, I'll have a sandwich from this nice lady or whatever, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there were like poor white people.
Yeah, for sure. But the impression that I got was that it was mostly like people who knew what they were doing. Okay. And like, but honestly, probably there probably were some dollars that went to it that were not intended to go to it. Anyway, so a friendly rival popped up at one of the meetings, started by a woman named Inez Ricks, called the Friendly Club, and they also would sell food and have like kind of a competition every week. But Georgia was the original, and she. Wait, is there something else I was going to say before I talk about her death? Yeah. So. Yeah, she passed away in March of 1990. It was the 25th anniversary of the march from Selma to Montgomery. She had spent the morning cooking macaroni and cheese and chicken, and then she passed away. And so when people came to mourn her, her family fed them the food that she had made that morning.
Yeah, that's how I want to go.
Cooking
macaroni
and
the
chicken. Food for your own memorial service.
No, I just want to be surrounded by my loved ones and macaroni.
And macaroni and cheese. That sounds pretty dope. Because she had like been cooking all this food for people to come like celebrate the event.
Yeah. Oh.
So she died at the age of 70. Yeah, she had several children. One source said 6 children, one of whom became a city councilman. And she was just like, her house is now a historic site also. Oh, cool. There's like a plaque outside of it. And
in Montgomery?
Yeah, in Montgomery. And apparently there's like it's only a few blocks walk from her house to MLK's house. And one of the sources, I think one of the NPR sources, described it kind of like a Civil War battlefield where it's like there's so much historical significance, but they kind of get forgotten. Like there's actually one next to my in Park Slope next to my this is American Revolutionary War, but next to my middle school, it's like there's the Battle of Long Island happened like right there, and like it's just like a playground or whatever. Yeah. It's like one of those things where it's like, man, there's so much. But that walk between MLK's house and Georgia Gilmore's house, there's so many, like all the civil rights leaders ever basically like had walked those blocks. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Georgia Gilmore. My sources, there's a lot of sources. There's just not like a ton of information about her life before this, but biography.com, 2 different NPR stories, one by Maria Godoy, Godoy from 2018, and one by Jamie York and the Kitchen Sisters from 2005.
The Kitchen Sisters.
Yeah, I guess they were like an NPR crew. And then Timeline, an article by Nina Renata Aaron. And then also I used Wikipedia a little bit, although
yeah, girl.
The only really thing I got from Wikipedia was that she had 6 kids. But it was a lot of repeat information. But that was Georgia Gilmore.
How'd you hear about her?
My mom sent her to me.
Thanks, Mrs. Ruben-Long.
Ruben. She does not have the long.
She didn't hyphenate hers?
Mm-mm.
Your parents didn't both change their last names for each other?
Nope.
They just kept their own? Mm-hmm. I like that.
Just for Judge Ruben.
Judge Ruben.
Your Honor. That's what we call her.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ugh.
That's what I make Louie call her.
So you're like, what should I call your mom? Should I call her like Mrs.
I know. I tried to do a bit about
by her
that.
First name?
But
Judge
it didn't
Ruben.
really work. I should be like, oh no, you call her Your Honor.
All right. Okay, my woman is very different. Okay. I might have... Can you tell me how to pronounce... Because she's French. Marie Gouges? Gouges?
I don't know.
Gouze?
Put in Google.
All right. I'm just going to say Gouges.
Gouges.
Okay. Marie Gouges was born in southern France in 1748. So like Marie's growing up, and it's just like pretty basic. Like at some point in her childhood, she finds out that her dad, the butcher, isn't actually her dad. It's like who her mom is married to, but she had a lover named Marquis de Pompignan. He's
that sounds like a lover name.
Yeah, he's like this like wealthy, educated playwright man, which to me sounds like a 7-year-old's fantasy of like, you know, when you like get into a fight with your parents and you're like, one day my real dad will come and rescue me, or like the king
whole
and
plot
queen
of Harry Potter.
Yes. Yeah, totally. But I think that plays on like, you know, that thing that we all sort of fantasize about.
Yeah. I did always wish I was going to be like a princess by accident.
Yeah. What a dumb fucking
Turns out I'm a princess on purpose. Okay.
So growing up, like I guess Marie and the Marquis, her real dad, have like somewhat of a relationship, but then he goes off and marries some wealthy French woman, and he's like, bye kid. And she's like, okay, so rich people need to be taken down a notch, maybe. Her butcher dad dies when she's 16. So Marie then marries this guy. It's like an unhappy marriage. There was not like, I couldn't find any of the details, but they like, you know, there's like, she just said that he wasn't good to her, which.
And at that time, that means must have been really bad.
Right. Yeah. I think, yeah, it was either like maybe domestic violence, spousal rape was pretty common.
Fun.
Yeah, just like good times in France.
Like a fun, healthy marriage
for women. It's yeah. So then, like a couple years later, when Marie's 20, she has a baby boy, and then like 2 months after that, her husband dies.
Wow.
She's like, great. I get to start over now. Bye.
I got this baby.
So she and her baby pick up, and they move to Paris. And then
she's like carrying a suitcase.
Oui, mama. And then she changes her name to Olympe de Gouges. Yeah, I feel like I'm saying it like I'm Portuguese, but
there's a glare.
Oh, sorry, Olympe de
Gouges.
Yeah.
I don't
I'm just gonna,
I
yeah.
took not a lot of French. I'm
Okay.
sorry. This
That's
one's
okay.
hard.
I know it's a lot. I almost didn't do it because of the French.
Just it's Gouges. So
Yeah,
Google
and
it.
Olympe is like Olympe, and De is De.
Yeah, there you go. Oh god.
So Olympe,
her full name will be in the
it'll be in the
description of this episode. So
I'm just gonna call her Olympe. I'm gonna call her Limpy. So she vows to never get married again, and said, quote, marriage is the tomb of love and trust, which I figured you'd like.
Last night, my cousin's getting married, and yesterday we went wedding dress shopping. She's getting married in October of 2019, which is a year and a half from now. But she's very organized. But last night, Louie and I were trying to... Yeah,
you're not that.
I'm
intense,
not.
But you are very organized.
Thank you. I feel like
You're
I haven't
planner.
been lately, but it is in my blood somewhere. I guess that's
you
where
taught me about spreadsheets.
I know. I haven't been very good about spreadsheets myself, though. Depression has made me less organized.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta send you that Death of a Thousand Cuts.
Oh,
thing.
I downloaded it, but I just
good.
haven't listened to it yet.
Okay.
But anyway, so Louie and I were trying to think of wedding hashtags for them, since that is our, creative input. I came up with a good one, which his last name is Aquino, and I said a queen for Aquino. But then he was like, "You're more of a gnat than a queen." Like, they have a loving banter.
Yeah,
so that was funny. But then Louis, he's a prison guard in New Jersey, and so Louis was like, from what did he say? From prison guard to prisoner or something like that. Which is the one we might do.
Yeah. Marriage is the tomb of love and trust, from prison guard to prisoner.
The hashtag from prison guard to prisoner.
That's so funny.
Look it up on Instagram, October 2019.
Okay, so Olympe she's in Paris. She has this kid who doesn't really come into the story again until the very end, but it doesn't matter. And she starts hanging out with the intellectual crowd. And unlike most girls at the time,
college age,
I know this is so college, because she changes her name. She's like, you know what? I'm not going to go by Marie anymore. She didn't have a major,
but she would have changed it.
Yeah, totally. She had some education, which most girls didn't at the time. That wasn't emphasized at all. And she didn't really speak French, because I guess in the south of France they spoke Occitan.
Oh.
I'm sure I'm saying that right. Was that wrong? But
I'm sure I'm saying that right.
I'm sure I'm saying it right. Don't correct me. So she's learning French from these intellectual people. She's got all these ideas for how
bourgeois.
Revolution. And then she has all these ideas for how France could be better, right? She starts writing her ideas into pamphlets and then distributing them.
Stop being assholes.
Basically, I mean, there's
more croissants.
Some of it is like pretty revolutionary. Here's a quote from her pamphlet. Trade is suppressed. Incalculable numbers of workers are unemployed and without bread. What becomes of them? All is in stasis when the heartless rich stash away their wealth, that vile instrument of their cupidity.
The Heartless Rich.
Yeah.
Sounds like a band name.
It does.
The Heartless Rich. All
Can
right.
it prolong? Yeah, let's start it. Can it prolong their lives? Can it make them happier? These inactive treasures, what good do they do anyone? They must be offered interest-free to the state in the same way that they are placed in safes.
Wow.
She's like, give the
Pinko Kami.
Yeah, totally. And so these pamphlets are being read by the people who can read, which is the wealthy, which is like crazy. She was just like, yeah, like her whole life, she's just sort of okay.
I'm trying to put lotion on my hands, but we have to hold our microphone, so I'm holding it in my arm. But we'll be fine. My hands are very dry.
It's still winter. It sucks. Okay. So she's just always like, whoever the target of her message is, she's just like she does it in a way that person will read it. She also pushed for legalizing divorce, which ends up happening in 1792.
Cool.
She pushed for having OB wards in hospitals, which is like, how did that not, but apparently, I guess the mortality rate, and I didn't know if it was for infants or for the moms, but it was 25%.
Wow.
So one
probably
in four.
for the mom. That sounds like it's for the mom.
She pushed for training for the unemployed and the widowed, housing for the homeless by using empty hostels during the winter months, ending slavery, equal rights based on gender and race.
Wow, she's cool.
Yeah. A tax not just on income, but also on wealth. So like,
right, like
that's
wealth.
sort of what she was talking about. Of like, if you
it's
have
like the estate tax.
Yes. Repeal it, get rid of it. Thank goodness.
So gross.
But even more than that, it was like, if you have jewelry, you should have to pay a tax on that.
Your jewelry.
Like you should just have to pay a tax
on any kind of valuable
yes
thing. Cool.
And then she wrote, "You must fear the desperation of the poor and their subsequent revolts. It is always the rich who are attacked by their murderous hands. And often in their fury, they make no distinction between the good and the bad."
Yeah, see, I don't think MLK would have trusted her to cook his food.
No.
Not that he was rich, but she was deeply into food poison.
Well, she actually ends up being very like pro peaceful transition.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, she's basically like
her early works.
Yeah. We all have written things that we would look back on now and be like, ooh.
Good thing she didn't get hired for SNL.
Yeah, I know. I feel like if you are a comedian and you haven't deleted some of your old tweets yet, you don't believe in yourself.
I don't believe in myself. I should do that.
Yeah, somebody's gonna, and like, not that I ever said anything like terrible,
But you're like, this isn't worth
but
it.
it's like, I wouldn't defend this because I was
I'm gonna go back.
miseducated.
I also have been wanting to go back because I'm like, I wonder if there's any like great jokes
There probably
that I could use.
Yeah, that's like, going back through your old notebooks.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Yeah. No, but she wasn't so much saying like, this is what I want to do to you, so much as like, this is probably what's going to happen to you.
Yeah. So stop being so heartless rich.
Yeah, like revolution is coming, bitch.
Yeah. Cool.
And then since a lot of people at the time were illiterate, Olympe decides to put on a play, which was like a very radical and controversial play because the play was about how slavery is bad. Mm-hmm. And they're like, she went back and forth with the theater company about what language she was allowed to use. And then finally in 1789, I think it was like 5...
Clean for TV? Or
what?
Clean for TV?
Clean for TV. Yeah, it has to pass the censors. I guess it was like 5 years after she wrote it, or 4 years after, they finally put on the play.
Whoa.
It ran for 3 nights and then shut down because people who are chill
is there like a copy of the play somewhere, do you?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all in French,
I'm sure someone can translate it. I'm sure there's some people who speak both.
Nobody can't do it.
Someone out there could.
Somebody will have to translate it into a third language first, and then we can translate it.
Not a lot of Europeans who also speak English.
Not many people know this, but there's actually no direct French to English translation.
Wow.
It just doesn't exist.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I know. I mean, probably. I'm sure something does because we know about it.
Cool.
But yeah, people hated it because people who are chill with slavery don't like it when you tell them that it's bad to own people.
No.
So, and then Olympe was like pretty bummed.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Also, I mean, you know, her writing was rejected, which always sucks.
We get it.
Yeah, man. I get sad when like my sketch gets rewritten.
Yeah.
I have to like get over it.
Yeah.
So imagine like writing a play and everybody being like heckling you basically until it shuts down.
I hope she knew it wasn't her. It was the content. It was what she was trying to say. It wasn't the way she said it.
I think
or maybe it was bad. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I think because it's like even if you were saying a good message, it doesn't mean you were good. But she's such a good writer.
Yeah, in other ways that it probably was good.
Yeah. So then July of 1789 happens. The revolution is fucking on.
Televised. Okay.
A bunch of people storm Bastille. They overthrow Louis the 16th. It's Bastille Day. Olympe is down. She's like, fuck yeah, it's time for change. It's time for the people to be heard. And they're like, yeah, it is.
The people sing.
And then Olympe is like, it's time for women to have equal power. And they're like, well,
JK.
About that. When we said it's time for the people to be heard, we meant like Christian men.
We meant like men people.
Christian men is what that meant.
Oh, man.
And Olympe was pissed. She was like, no, I want to vote. And they're like, no, that's what your husband's for. Because like when
I don't got one.
Also, it was this idea of like, when he votes, he's voting with your interests in mind.
For the family.
So what do you really need to be able to vote for? Your husband's already speaking for you.
Oh, God.
And then there was, I guess like the revolution, and this stuff is like so out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I actually don't really know a lot about the French Revolution.
I just knew it was like, let them eat cake, you know, and like Marie Antoinette gets beheaded. Like that's really all I knew.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting.
I did learn about this and then I forgot it.
I don't think I really did.
Queen stuff, history with a lot of monarchs was always so hard for me to wrap my head around. Like British history and French history was so hard for me because I just get all of the names get so confusing for me. And I feel like I identified historically with like people, and it's like I couldn't keep them straight. The different kings and the queens and the Louis and the Henrys and the fucking, it was like too much.
Same.
So
which
I
sucks
really forget what that was all about.
Turned me off of like the whole thing, but it's like, no, there are really good stories.
No, there's great. I know. Yeah. Well, here we are now.
Here we are. And this is,
figure it out together.
I'm just saying like schools do it wrong, you know.
I'm just saying like don't go to school. School's for fucking losers. I'm just kidding. I was really good at school and I really miss it. Yeah, that's why the Death of a Thousand Cuts podcast is really nice because it's basically just a teacher. I should tell Louis about that. We should do it together. I'll tell him today.
Yeah. Also, if you're a writer or whatever, there's this podcast.
My brother would probably like it.
Called Death of a Thousand Cuts. It's like an 80K from couch to whatever. I think it's supposed to teach you like how to write a novel, but he's also like very aware that there are people listening to it.
Fiction writing is what it describes
basically,
as.
Yeah. And every day it's a 20-minute podcast. 10 minutes of it is him talking, and 10 minutes of it is you writing, and he gives you an assignment each day. So it's just like 10 minutes of writing a day, and he's like very encouraging, and he's just like it feels like having a teacher.
During the 10 minutes that you're writing, does he just give you like multiple prompts, or is it just like, here's the prompt, now write for 10 minutes?
So far it's just been, here's the prompt. I'm still in the first week. Yeah, it's 10 minutes of silence where you're writing, and then when 10 minutes is up, he just goes, and that's it, you did your writing today.
Cool,
like,
cool,
good for you.
Cool.
But the first week is just lists. You make.
Do you do it on the subway? No, you do it with Jackie at the end of the day.
We do it together.
It's a good idea.
Not always at the end of the day, but just at some point. It's been a lot of at the end of the day.
Or on weekdays,
that's
probably,
when we're together.
Yeah.
Okay. So Sorry if that was very loud. So the revolutionaries write the Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen.
Okay.
And Olympe writes a response to that, her own version called the Declaration of the Rights of Woman and the Female Citizen.
Yeah, bitch.
And is like, why are we not in your fucking version anywhere? Which I would love to see somebody rewrite the U.S. Constitution from a women's perspective.
Yeah.
That would be a fun project. If somebody needs a PhD, a thesis project, do that. So her...
Or just like a sketch for All Female Reboot.
Yeah.
All Female Reboot, the
oh
Constitution.
My God, the Founding Fathers.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Let's tell Liz.
Okay.
Don't steal it, everyone.
Don't. Okay, so basically her declaration said women should be able to own property. It proposed an alternative to getting married by the church and basically proposed civil unions. Mm-hmm. Fathers should have some responsibility over taking care of their kids. Pretty radical shit. And she basically employs this logic that she's like, if like by saying that like women aren't responsible enough to like own property or do anything on their own or vote, then women should also not be responsible for any of their faults. Right? Like if a woman steals a loaf of bread, then she shouldn't get in trouble. It should be the man who's responsible for her who gets in trouble. So she's like, basically you're saying we're responsible for like the bad things that we do, but we don't get to have the like any power. Right. So like that's the logic that she uses, which is pretty interesting. I mean, I feel like there's no using logic with a lot of people. Yeah. Because
if you don't think women are people, it's hard to convince them that they are because you're at a sort of a stalemate there.
And then people are getting super murdered.
Super murdered.
There's another band name, Super Murder.
Yeah.
So Maximilien de Robespierre.
Wow.
Robespierre,
That's
I think,
right.
is like a name that sort of recalls something in the deep crevices of my brain.
Too, but I don't know what it is.
Okay, so he was the dude who...
Maybe a writer?
I mean, I might be getting this like sort of wrong because I didn't do so much research, but from what I gather, Robespierre was the dude who was like leading the revolution, but sort of, at least in her eyes and probably histories, I guess, like he was trying to use democracy and this idea of revolution to become a dictator. Basically, he's like, let's overthrow the monarchy.
I feel like that's very common.
Yes, it happened. I mean, yes,
in like Latin America, isn't that like a theme? I was listening. Do you listen to the Daily podcast?
Yeah.
Did you hear that one about Venezuela?
Yeah,
that was really intense.
It was very good.
Very good. Listen to the Daily. I'm sure the New York Times appreciates our shout out. Anyway, but we can't get into it now, but we won't. Cool. But yeah, very common for like leaders to be like, the people rise up. JK, I'm going to be all the one in power.
Well, there's also a lot of like, especially in Latin America, there's a lot of, when they take over power, it's a lot of like, okay, they have these very populist, like very noble goals of like doing good things for the people, but then a lot of times there comes a point where they're like, oh, we can't have elections yet because I'm just about to do this great thing for everybody. Yeah. And they're like, okay, we'll just suspend elections for now, like just for now, and then but like power corrupts.
Is
and
that
then you
slow? Just it's like that slow decline into totalitarianism.
Yeah,
but
it's also what makes a lot of dictators like complicated figures, because you can say there are these really great things that they did, but it's combined with like these horrible things that they did. Yeah. No, like in Cuba,
right? Castro.
But like 98% of the country can read and write. Yeah. And that's like because that was which is like a smart thing to do to like get people on your side to support you. If you're like, but look at all these great things that I did for you. In
a way, yeah.
Okay. So, so Robespierre was like that dude. He's also like, I mean, he's a dick. He's just like arresting people who are speaking out.
Dictator.
Anybody who speaks out against the revolution, he's just like off with their heads.
Cool.
So, Olympe who was totally for revolution. She was all for democracy, but she just didn't think that it was the best idea to overthrow the monarchy and then start from scratch. She's like, I just think it's going to be too complicated. So she proposed, she was in favor of a constitutional monarchy, like what England has, right? Of just like, you still have a parliament, you can still vote, but also there's a king and queen. Yeah. And also like, she really wanted to knock it off with all the executions because there were just heads without bodies everywhere. Ew. The French Revolution, I mean, I kind of knew this. I just didn't realize how violent it was. Wow. Approximately 17,000 people were sent to the guillotine.
Jesus.
Like after the king and queen were overthrown.
Oh my God. That's a lot of heads.
So many. So he basically, Robespierre would like arrest anybody who spoke out against any of his methods. He called them loyalists and elitists and like whatever. So Olympe is
male
like
ego.
If
you're not with me, you're an elitist.
Yeah.
It's like, that sounds kind of elitist.
If somebody in power can't take any criticism, it's a problem.
Wonder who you're talking about.
So many people. But also,
we know nothing about that now.
Yeah, I mean, it's what a time we are living through.
At least there's not heads in the streets yet.
Not yet.
Just okay. I was about to say
sorry.
Something really
we can take this in a very dark turn.
I know.
But
Okay. We got to also. You have to go record a podcast. I'm gonna shut up and let you go.
That's
finish.
Okay. Oh shit. Also, my computer just died.
No.
That's okay. I have it on Google Docs. Hang on.
All right. Well, in the meantime, I'll
Vamp.
just say, hey y'all, you listen to Well Behaved. This is a commercial break.
Sorry.
Today we're selling Justice. Check it out.
That's my favorite
Justice.
improv.
It comes in all colors, all sizes.
Mm-hmm. It's pulled up. I'm just scrolling down. Okay.
Really?
All
Okay.
right, I'm back. And we're back.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I haven't taken improv in a long time. That was a rough one. Okay. But I will not edit it out because I don't feel like it.
No. All right. Okay. So Olympe is not one to just like fucking lie down and listen to some dude spew his bullshit.
Right.
So she's like, someone has to say something and voice their dissent about his actions, and that someone is me. So she wrote this pamphlet that was like basically directed right at him. She said, "What do you want? What do you demand? What are you avenging? Who do you want to fight, and whose blood do you still thirst for?"
And he's like, everybody's baby.
Basically,
I'm a weirdo.
She says, "But sacred philosophy will shackle your success. For whatsoever may be your momentary triumph or the disorder of this anarchy, you will never govern enlightened men. Tell me, what actually will be your place in the pages of history?" Wow. Yeah, she was fucking... Sorry, I have to turn up the brightness on my phone. She was just like, fuck it, fuck you.
Yeah.
Then she wrote, she knew that was sort of like, she was sort of signing her own death warrant with that.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Because I guess he killed anyone.
He kills everybody. So she then wrote, "Men are no longer capable of hearing my words. Take charge of my life. Hasten its end. My tired eyes can no longer bear the horror of seeing the sad dissension of men. If you need the pure and spotless blood of a few innocent victims to bring forward your days of terrible retribution, add to this great campaign the blood of a woman. I have planned it all. I know that my death is inevitable."
Damn.
And so on July 20th, 1793, Olympe is arrested for being an anti-revolutionary.
That's so stupid. She's not anti. She's pro-revolution, you dummies.
Yeah. And it was the distributor of her pamphlets who reported her, but it didn't really matter.
Right. It was going to happen.
It was pretty public that she hated this dude.
Yeah.
So she's thrown in jail for a few months. She's treated like shit. Her health is deteriorating, but even still, she manages to smuggle out writing from her cell. She said, and so I guess this is one of the last things she wrote. "Let my assassins tremble. All will be accounted for when I am no longer here. The people will be acquainted with all that I did on their behalf. Good deeds are never without value in this world. Experience teaches us that the virtuous individual, persecuted in his lifetime, whose memory is honored after death, gathers unto him tears of gratitude." So she's just like, history will remember me fondly. If I have to die for this, I'll die for this.
And that's why she's on a podcast about women you've forgotten about.
Goddamn right. I know. I mean, there was like a very active smear campaign against her memory.
Now, maybe people know her in France more.
Well, so they didn't for a long time. I'll get to it. But so her trial is bullshit. They decide she's not allowed to have a lawyer. Wouldn't have mattered anyway.
Yeah.
She's sentenced to the guillotine, which is so hacky. Okay, I wrote that this morning, pretty hungover, very proud of myself.
I'm proud of you too.
Thank you. On November 3rd,
But for being hungover, not for the joke.
God damn it. On November 3rd, 1793, at the age of 45, she's beheaded.
Oh, good. She never got wrinkles. What a dream.
According to and also, you know, she grew up she's in France. There's not like so much sun damage that's happening, you know.
That's true. Yeah. She aged gracefully.
According to various witnesses, she was calm and composed, courageous and beautiful. Her final words were, "Children of the homeland, you shall avenge my death."
Whoa, that was sick.
Love it. And then, you know, the authorities went to her home. They burned all the papers there. So all that exists of her work is just like what was already published. And then they destroyed her name, right? So they said that she was a prostitute, a traitor, someone who didn't respect herself.
In the words of Teresa Giudice from Real House of New Jersey, season 1, prostitution whore.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
Yeah. And then they just stopped talking about her altogether for a long time, and she was lost to history. Women in France wouldn't get the right to vote until 1945.
Damn.
Wow,
that's later than us.
Yeah, and
I didn't know that.
Well, so there was a movement established in 1909 in France to fucking get the right for suffrage, but it wasn't until 1945.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. In 2014, the president of France, then president, Francois Hollande, decided not to admit her into the Pantheon.
The Pantheon?
Pantheon? I don't know. I copied and pasted that part. But he did put like a sculpture of her in the National Assembly. And so like that's the consolation prize, I guess. And that is Olympe the Gouges. Maybe.
Wow. Well, this is a podcast about butchering language.
My sources were, most of this came from Roni Bar in Haaretz.
Excuse me, what?
Haaretz. It means the land in Hebrew.
Is she Jewish?
No, I think Marie wasn't, but there's a lot of the information about her comes from the University of Jerusalem. Like there's a number of scholars there who like did their project, who like started researching her.
It's not really like the Jews to talk about anyone other than other Jews.
Yes, but there are a lot of French
Jews.
Yeah. So living especially in Israel because the Holocaust happened.
It's the Holocaust, yeah.
And they had nowhere else to go. Okay. This isn't turning into that podcast. Sorry. History.com and France24.com.
Tight.
And I heard about it. Thank you to Molly. I'm not going to say her last name. I don't know, like, how. Not you, Molly. A girl I went to college with. I never know, like, do people not want their last, like, regular, normal people?
Fine.
So thanks, Molly.
Cool.
Who I went to college with.
Yeah.
And was in Hillel with me for telling me about her.
Cool.
Do you have any dates?
Oh, God, probably not. Let me look. I think I do have something this week.
We have. I have. I'll go first. Wednesday, March 21st at 8:30. I will be at Halyards. Thursday, the 22nd, I'll be at Good Vibes at 9:30. Saturday, the 24th, I'll be at the Creek in the Cave at 10 o'clock. And then Tuesday, March 27th, I will be at New York Comedy Club at 7 o'clock. And that is that.
I'm doing comedy at Artichoke Pizza in Bushwick on Thursday the 22nd. And then on Saturday the 31st, I have a show at 9 at the Pit and a show at 10:30 at Under St. Mark's. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Do you have a Wonder Woman?
No.
Okay, I have... Oh, shit, where'd she go? Oh, well, I was going to say Marielle Franco was the representative from the favelas who in Rio de Janeiro who was assassinated this weekend or last week. And she was like very much in favor of like, I mean, I didn't realize this, but like right now, basically Rio de Janeiro is under military, like the military are acting as the police.
Oh shit. And
she was very active in like fighting against that, against police brutality, against like the poverty that plagues her community. And it was like, there was a lot of stuff about how important it was for these favelas to have like a woman of color as their representative and somebody who was from their community.
Cool.
And so that was her, and she was murdered. And that sucks, but sorry, that wasn't eloquent at all. But yeah, that's our, you know, we try to highlight somebody who's like making history now. And I think she did that.
She did. Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for coming over.
Thanks for having me.
And keep making history.